Self-vaccination against colds. 6 questions and answers to preventing and fixing colds. The webinar was prepared in partnership between a New York-based FireMD, a clinical herbalist Marina Buksov, and the head of a European Botanicals and Human Microbiome R&D Center, Irina Gavrilova. Marina is a summa cum laude PharmD from St. John's University, health coach and clinical herbalist, author of a Slavic herbs product line of biopharmaceuticals, sold on Amazon and in New York pharmacies, while Irina is a rare human bridge between business and science, MBA in finance, herbal scientist, owner, and head of a EU-based advanced R&D center.
Why we speak about colds? Because first of all, colds suck. I mean, you've been there, I've been there, everyone knows what a cold is. And we really know that we miss out on opportunities with our friends, relatives, job opportunities, earning opportunities. And the message today is, guys, let's not miss opportunities anymore. Because, for example, if you think about it, American children miss almost 200 million school days due to colds. Huge number, isn't it?
Why most cold remedies do more harm than good.
If you've been practicing conventionally, we do have some solutions and remedies out on the market that we sell on a daily basis during cold and flu season, probably. And those are mainly categorized as a nasal spray or a local spray, right, of some sort. And that's usually either a vasoconstrictor, an alpha-1 agonist, or something like a local steroid like Flonase. And so the problem is the vasoconstrictors like Afrin, for example, or anything of the same category, they produce rebound congestion and cause dependence, which is why we limit it to 3 days. And then we do have some internal decongestants too, and they obviously have problems with hypertension, right? We can't give them because they're adrenergic to people who already are more on the stimulated side of things, more in the sympathetic overdrive, which a lot of people are, especially where I live in New York, where everybody's stressed. So they can definitely damage and dry out the mucosa too in case of the steroids. And also they will lead to a sort of dependency and tolerance where if you're using them all the time for allergies and for other type of congestion, it's hard for the body to then develop its own mucus barrier and lining and maintain that health. And then antibiotics or antiviral drugs, well, they're not perfect either, because if it's a virus, then antibiotics won't work. And with antivirals, there's different levels of efficacy. And the primary one that we use, Tamiflu, is a little bit risky because it does have that rare side effect of seizures and other neurologic disturbances. So many people are very wary for good reasons of that. And then as far as the antibiotics, as you know, we are trying to be very careful as far as antibiotic stewardship, because we now realize that, yes, we are indiscriminately killing off good and commensal species in our microbiome. So we have good bugs and we have bad bugs, right? And we have opportunistic infections, but when you use an antibiotic, it just kills everything. And so then we lose the diversity of the microbiome species that we want for overall health. So there's a lot of problems with the conventional approach.
Which client groups need self-vaccination solution desperately?
We can cater to moms that are against antibiotics. These women have a reason for that, right? And then if you think about it, then a mom who is not willing to use antibiotics and who's getting from you an advice, a recommendation, and something that can be used instead, but is same or even more effective, this woman is going to be grateful to you and is going to bring a lot of clients after having this positive experience. A lot of people with anxiety or elevated need for control, any professional whose work in a project or within a job depends on a particular final result within a deadline, will kiss your hands, eventually, if you give them the remedy, which is safe, quick, not expensive, and really gets them through a cold or prevents a cold so that they don't miss out on their results, right? There are people, obviously, that have been experiencing colds and they, were sick on colds very often or for a long time. For example, they had a chronic or recurrent cold, yeah? These people tried a lot of things, nothing worked or worked for a little while, and then they had to, try something again, seek for something again. So these people are also potentially very good clients and very grateful clients. And another category which I personally am part of is that when you have an allergy, so as Marina mentioned, my My career in science started after I nearly died of anaphylaxis. Yeah, very, very unpleasant experience. So ever since I've been exposed to allergies in a different form. And then when you suffered through a season, with this allergic problems and so on, your mucus is getting dry, your mucus is getting unpleasant, your sensation of breathing overall is not really nice. People like that, people like me, need a remedy to recover their mucus.
What is the bioaliens conspirancy theory all about?
And it turned out that my allergy, for example, which I had, which was drastic in 2015, could only be reversed, which I have done, right, through tackling the microbiome problems. And it worked, So in that sense, we say, well, there are different domains of microbiome, but we today suggest to focus on the nasal and oral microbiome because this is the gate to everything else. This is the entry point. So in that sense, if you think about it as of a fortress, which every potential enemy approaches and sees the fortress's wall, then of course you start, like everybody has seen these movies about the medieval ages and, these fortresses that were conquered or not conquered because of certain reasons. We all know that the most important part of the fortress, the number one factor of the fortress, is the wall. Think about it. So let's think of our healthy mucus as the wall of the fortress, right? So in that sense, a really strong, a healthy wall, right, is super important. And then this leaky wall or ruined or damaged wall would be a really, really big problem, would be a disaster, because when you have the fortress, you definitely have an army, right? And that's where we come to the next point, right? So the army would be those bugs, as we agreed to call them, that are working on protection of your fortress and not letting in or killing those who let in the bad bugs, right? Or the viruses. So that is a very important factor that we need to always be aware of. Not only we need to have a good fortress, but we also have to have a good army to protect the fortress and do the job, even if the viruses, get in and so on. So the self-vaccination that the good bugs, our native microbiome, is capable of, it's something that has been recently proved by the research center of the Rockefeller University, New York based, as far as I understand. So your neighbors literally, Medina. And this becomes a true revolution in all the medical studies, because from now on, we get back to basics. How come we as the humanity managed to survive through, cholera, through, plague, all these terrible viruses that were absolutely kind of impossible to survive, because we eventually started developing this, new resistance tools and so on, based on our native microbiomes, because they were literally coming up with some solutions to how to get the DNA of the virus and like really blend in, sort of mutate with it. I'm not here to teach you those things, right? Because I'm just saying that, well, these are the areas that we have studied: the fortress, the arms, the armies, let's say the militaries, right? And then basically our domain is the third one, is when you have the fortress and the army, then whatever happens inside of the fortress still will need certain, either medical help or some janitors, like cleansing and so on.
How do botanical extraction technologies differ in their effect on the human microbiomes?
So we have studied 5 different technologies, 5 different product groups, herbal extraction methods, and the products that they produce. And it turned out, there's a video link here, so later on you will be able to see it. But long story short, the antioxidant power is very important to keep the fortress clean from inside, right? And then the products coming from the extraction methods that produce high antioxidant power usually have high bacteria killing power as well. So they basically act this in the same way as antibiotics. Funny, isn't it? We know antibiotics as a particular group of medicines, particular group of products, but nobody speaks about lots and lots of herbal products which are killing the microbiota as the antibiotics. But that's honest, would be fair. But they have their own, let's say, classification. So what our study showed that the currently known groups of products which are high in antioxidant activity are also high in anti-good bug activity, any bug activity, right? So it's like you're like getting the good and the bad effect at the same time, and you basically neutralize them in the end of the day. And on the contrary, the products that were friendly to the microbiome were not giving pretty much any antioxidant activity or very low. And we realized that the technology, the Lacquer fermentation technology of botanicals, gives you the best of both. I mean, it's very microbiome friendly and it's very high in antioxidant activity.
Marina's opinion on why fermented botanicals are better than the conventional approaches in herbal medicine.
I have wanted to have my own line of products and formulas because I've been formulating for years, and I've been giving the formulas to my local pharmacies, and people would love them and come back. And I would mainly just do teas, so loose leaf teas. And for my clients, I would either do teas or tinctures, and it would be just a complex formula, just like she was talking about the complex, because the goal for an herbal formula is to have the minimum amount of herbs in the proper proportion to take care of the whole body. So we don't want 10, 20 drugs of isolated ingredients, which is the conventional approach. And it's really meant to support, again, the constitution of the person, the terrain of the person, and then also the acute and the chronic issues that they have. So I found that depending on people's, cultural and ethnic beliefs and backgrounds, they would be more or less opposed to herbal therapies and also to different dosage forms. And convenience was also a factor. So if somebody, doesn't have time to make themselves tea, or loose leaf tea is what I made, so I don't have the tea bags. So maybe a little bit less convenient for them. And so I really wanted something that would be convenient, like a tincture, but then some people didn't want alcohol because that's the basis of a lot of tinctures. And then our only alternative for alcohol is glycerin. But glycerin, I found personally that it's really not that potent. And the study that you saw really proved why. Like, it's not a really good extract, and it might also be highly processed, the way that glycerin is produced in the first place. So it wasn't my favorite thing. So for people who can't tolerate or choosing not to use alcohol, and maybe they don't have time, right, to just brew themselves tea, or don't drink enough tea to get the therapeutic efficacy, this was a really, really great solution.
What is the highest efficacy solution to colds?
We've come to this nasopharyngeal microbiome complex protocol, which we called Coldsbye, like bye-bye colds, right? And it has two different groups, which would be the direct action and the support action, right? So with the direct action, you have to directly put you have to directly put the drops into, in one case, the happy nose drops into your mouth or into your nose, and then the happy throat, let's call it, or cough go away, as we call it, into your throat. Then it has a very strong and very solid, let's say, methodology. You apply the nasal drops 2 times per day. There's no need to do more. And it's a perfect, perfect schedule. And then just once per day before going to bed, after you drank everything, you apply 1 pipette into your throat. And then whoever wakes up after this is feeling the effect, pretty much immediately. So the other part, which is the indirect action, is supposed to make your body prepared for all the load that the body's getting with the colds, right? The happy cells are giving you extremely high antioxidant boost, and they're doing the body cleans and so on. And the stress ease complex obviously is helping you to feel more relaxed and really get your nervous system more prepared to invest into fighting the colds. So the four different products made all of fermented herbs, fermented botanicals, are together given the effect, which has been tested with over 400 patients here in Europe, and we've got this approval from, what is that, about 20 doctors, I guess, that tried it with the patients and said, for this season, I'm in, because they tried it before and they said, listen, well, now we're gonna use it on a regular basis.
Let's ask an expert on the therapeutic efficacy of the Happy Nose Gatekeeper after using it in person.
Let me like just show and demonstrate. So this is how Happy Nose looks. And I'll be the first to attest that when I initially started using this, I was recovering from like a chronic sinusitis issue. And actually, I never used to have this problem, but about a year and a half ago, it became an acute problem that I actually had to acutely get sinus surgery for. And ever since then, I would just get these sinus flare-ups, even though the surgery was actually supposed to reduce that. So long story short, I tried a lot of methods, including like steam inhalation and natural methods and even antibiotics and all this kind of stuff. So then when I got my hands on the Happy Nose, when I first started using it, it used to actually burn and it wasn't a very pleasant sensation. Like it didn't burn in a way that I felt that was harming my mucous membrane, but I did feel, again, it was that sensation of like, there's something that's not exactly a good barrier in there. So after a while, actually, I started using it daily. And then after a while, I realized, oh, you know what? It's actually really pleasant, you know, and I'm feeling the pleasant sensation. I'm really enjoying the herbs. And I sent it to an herbalist friend of mine, and she actually loved it right away. So clearly she didn't have a nasal problem because she loved it. And me, it took me a while for me to love it, but now I just use it prophylactically at night because again, I still feel that I'm not out of the woods yet with my sinus things, and I just really don't want to have that very frequent flare up. So I'm actually using it like this. You just put it like a couple of drops.
Wouldn't it be wise to pivot into colds prevention? 2 essential tips.
We flipped it and it worked because current approach is, okay, you got the symptom, you know, eliminate the symptom. But it turned out that the prevention in this case, in the nasal microbiome works better, much better. So we used to an approach which is not effective per se. I mean, we in the current society, I mean, in the modern society, yeah. And the Coldsbye complex would use the vaccination, self-vaccination algorithm, and it's working for you to prevent the next cold or actually eliminate the current cold so much faster, and at the same time, sort of like vaccinate yourself against the next coming cold. What is so easy and smart about this protocol? You can always check yourself and get your clients check the, let's say, the need for it, not only when, you know, people have very obvious symptoms, but if you use a few drops of Happy Nose fermented botanicals complex into the nostrils strays, and you have certain discomfort and you have certain, you know, burning sensation or something like this, that means that your fortress, your mucus, is damaged. It has microcracks. Then it, right on the spot, gives you a message that, hey, take care of me, you know? So in that case, you can actually provoke your clients in a good way, you know, to take care of themselves. You say, guys, it's so easy, just try it. You know, it's not gonna hurt anyone. If you don't have any problem like that, you can always still use it with your family. You can keep it in your purse and just carry it around. And so
Add Coldsbye protocol to your portfolio. For just $120, your patients get healthier with a full complex solution, sufficient for usage within 2 months. It works both for prophylaxis as well as for recovery of nasopharyngeal mucosa and local microbiome's integrity. Learn more about the technology and products with Get Healthy Store. Become a true herbal innovator with the safety and efficacy of fermented botanicals.